Hello everyone and welcome to the finals of the American Cup. It is 8-time US Women's Champion Irina Krush, Grandmaster Irina Krush versus FIDE Master Alice Lee. Only 13 years old but crushing everyone. She defeated Nazi Pakidze, International Master Nazi Pakidze in the semifinals, and now she has black against Irina. And I thought about showing you first Alice's game from the semifinals, but when I saw a certain line in this game, I decided to show you this one first. Okay, even though that one happened prior to this one, first we're going to show this one and then that one. So let's check it out. You guys will not believe this line. Let's see what I mean by this. So here we have c4 by Irina going for the English opening. We have pawn to c6. Now comes pawn to e4 and d5. This is a very nice counter to the pawn of attack. E captures. We have c captures, and now knight to f6, ready to recapture with the knight. Knight to c3, but now pawn to g6, not going for the knight right away. We have bishop to c4, now defending the pawn, and bishop to g7. So Alice decided to gambit the pawn, and she will try to regain it later on in the game, either by winning material or by winning position-wise. So here knight g to e2, we have castles by both of them, and now knight b to d7. We have pawn to d3, pawn to a6, and now pawn to a4, stopping b5, and here b6. And there are a couple of games that reach this position. Rook to e1 is a known move, knight to f4 is a known move, but here we have pawn to h3, and it is now as of move 11 that we have a completely new game. So bishop to b7, of course the bishop looks very nice on this long diagonal. We have pawn to d4, and only now pawn to b5. What's the idea behind this move? A captures on b5, seems like it's just giving up a pawn. Now knight to b6, first putting pressure on the bishop on c4. Bishop back to d3. Not willing to part with the bishop pair. A captures on b5. Rook captures on a8. We have queen captures on a8, and now bishop captures on b5. And we're only 16 moves in, and if you count the pawns, Irina has 6 pawns and Alice has only 4 pawns. But the b pawn, okay, it's a passed pawn, but there are too many pieces on the board to be considering that now. And the d pawn is doubled, so you're probably going to win one of them back. But still, very, very nicely done. Sacrificing some material for activity. Knight f captures on d5. We have knight captures on d5. Bishop captures on d5. And now knight to f4, putting pressure on the bishop, and bishop goes back to b7. And now if you assess this position, it's a very tricky position because white is up a pawn. It's a passed b pawn. Okay, so white will try to put pressure on the queen side, maybe even trade some pieces, and then try to advance that pawn all the way up the board to become a queen. And Alice will, of course, try to utilize her heavy artillery here to go after the white king. And here we have rook to e1. And this is the position that impressed me the most when I was enjoying the game, because we have to ask the silly question. Queen and bishop are aiming at that g2 pawn, and the only one defending is the knight on f4. So can we play g5 or not? That is the question here. And the answer is that no, you can't, but you have to be able to see like 20 moves into the future, and I don't think it's possible for anyone to calculate this. So I'm just going to show it to you because it's absolutely incredible. If pawn to g5, this is why it's impossible. You're going to play knight to h5. Now comes bishop captures on g2. And okay, it already looks like we're going to checkmate the white king. The problem is there's queen to d3, and now when we threaten checkmate with bishop to h1, now comes queen to g3. Okay, we stop checkmate, but now bishop captures on d4, king to h2, now threatening to win the bishop here, so bishop has to go back, and now bishop captures on g5, threatening some very nasty discoveries. So you're going to move the king, of course, king to h8, now bishop captures on e7, and now rook to g8. And again, it seems like black is completely dominating this position. So what's the problem here? There's only one move that wins the game for white, and it's a crazy one. So feel free to pause the video and try to solve this hypothetical position while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do this, congratulations on being able to see some 20 moves ahead. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, the only move that wins is bishop to g5. But it wins in so many fun ways that I'm just going to show you a few. Now, we have to ask ourselves, what's wrong with h6? What's wrong with f6? What's wrong with any of the moves? Because it doesn't seem like white should be able to hold this. The problem with h6 attacking the bishop is that there's this nice queen to d6 idea, and now how do you stop queen captures on h6 mate in 1? You have to play something like queen to b8. Okay, now you stop queen captures on h6 because the queen trade is being forced, but white will just trade, captures, and now you're going to play rook captures on e4, and if you count the pieces, you are up a full piece. You're up a light square bishop, and also the bishop on d4 is currently attacked. And if you capture on b2, then of course you will capture on h6, and you're still going to be up a light square bishop. So that's why after this bishop to g5 move, h6 doesn't work. But what about pawn to f6? Now queen to d6 makes no sense, as pawn to f6, it makes no sense. Now the problem is knight captures on f6. And again, it looks like it shouldn't be possible, but it is. What do you play here? The bishop is now hanging, the rook on g8 is attacked. How are you to survive this? If you play something like rook captures on g8, queen captures on g8, now bishop to g6. Okay, you're not getting checkmated or anything, but now look at this. Rook to e8 with check. Absolutely spectacular. Bishop captures is of course impossible because now queen to g8 will be checkmate, and if queen captures, then you just part with your queen. Let's say bishop captures, and that's pretty much it. Of course, you still can't capture because of checkmate. This is just straight out winning. Black will get checkmated in a couple of moves. So after bishop to g5, you don't have h6, you don't have f6. So what's the only other move you have? Well, that's the tricky one, and that's the one that you really had to calculate if you actually were considering pawn to g5, and that is pawn to f5. And now again, it looks like white is the one to be in trouble here. But rook to d1, you go after the bishop, bishop captures on b2, and now you play knight to f6, attack the rook. And again, it's the same idea. If the bishop captures, then bishop captures with check. This will be winning for white. But what about rook to g7, just getting the rook out of harm's way? Now comes pawn to f4. You don't have to worry about the bishop anymore. And h6 isn't all that impressive because queen to f2 will threaten the bishop on b2, and you don't want to allow that. So here you will play, after this bishop to g5 move, you have to play bishop to d4. And unless you want to allow the bishop to remain on such a beautiful diagonal, you have to play rook captures on d4. And now comes queen to a2 with check. You can't go anywhere on g2. Or h1, so you have to play, you can't play king to g1. If king to g1, then just queen to a1 check picks up the rook on d4. So you're gonna have to play bishop to e2, give up the bishop, queen captures on e2, and only now king to g1. And now, okay, we've traded down a little bit, but basically what you will get is knight to d5, knight captures on d5, and now this queen to a6 move. I mean, absolutely beautiful. Now you don't have to worry about bishop to f6 because queen just captures the bishop, and then after knight captures, you lose the queen with check, and also you are threatening queen to a1 check once again to win that rook on d4. And now after rook captures on e4, f captures on e4, you're going to play queen to g2, and now after pawn to e3, as you are preparing to bring that pawn all the way to e2, you're going to capture a knight captures. Now comes pawn to h6, winning back the bishop, knight f5, queen to b6 with check, king to h2, and now h captures on g5. Knight captures on g7, king captures on g7, and queen captures on g5 with check. And now we would end this line with white being up 2 pawns in a of course a winning position. So if you actually wanted to try g5 here, you would have to calculate all of this, and you would figure out that in the end white will just be up 2 pawns in a queen and pawn endgame. So that's why she did not play g5. She played pawn to e6, so you don't have to worry about your e7 pawn. But I mean, quite a line. So here we have bishop back to f1. Now the g2 pawn is defended, and you don't have to worry. Now the knight can move. Rook to d8, nicely aligning the rook with the queen. Also, the d4 pawn is now hanging, and you're going to have to give it up. Queen to b3, we have bishop captures on d4. Now the bishop pair is most certainly fully operational. Bishop to e3, she has to take care of one of the bishops. Bishop captures, we have queen captures on e3, and now knight to d5. You can't just leave the knight there, because then maybe some knight captures on e6 is an option. Okay, probably not, because if you capture, then rook to e8, but you don't want to even have this as an option. And also the knight is just hanging there, so knight to d5. Here there was a trade, knight captures, rook captures, and now again material is completely equal. Irina has a pass pawn on b2, so she advances it all the way to b4, as one always should. Bishop to c6, we have g3 now, so you don't have to worry about the g2 pawn ever again. And now rook to d7, we have pawn to b5, the pass pawn marches forward, bishop to b7, and now queen to e5. We have queen to a3, and now, well, there are a couple of options you could explore, but basically everything you do will end up in a threefold repetition. If you try to do some sort of a rook lift, then queen to c1 is annoying. Now your bishop cannot move. We will probably see something like rook back to e1, queen back to a3. So in the actual game, queen to b8 check was played, king to g7, and now a nice repetition. Queen to e5 check, king to g8, queen to b8 with check, king to g7, and now queen to e5 with check. And it was in this position on move 32 that Irina and Alice agreed to a draw, as there is nothing more to be done here. So truly a remarkable game from the first round of the finals, and you can see just how much pressure Alice is putting on her opponents, regardless of whether she plays white or black. It's absolutely incredible. And Irina even said after the game in her commentary that if Alice really wants that, she has no doubts that she will become a grandmaster. So we'll see what happens in game 2, where Alice will have the white pieces. Will we have another attacking game, or maybe something else? Stay tuned for that. But yeah, I will show the game between Alice and Nazi next, so stay tuned for that. And if you guys are wondering what happened in the men's section of the American Cup, it was pretty much a snooze fest, a very quick draw between Hikaru and Wesley. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank Mike Wagner, Thought Dreams, very nice video yesterday, Ryan Cavanaugh and Henry Spraggins for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.